right, this is the very first card that we're going to create in the class. It's the most simple. So the very first step, we're going to take our die and we're going to die cut our black piece of cardstock here. So my cardstock is bigger than the die and it actually cuts out the entire frame. So I don't actually need to worry about centering it on the paper, just as long as all of the blade bits are centered within that piece of paper and I can't see it. Let's run it right through. I absolutely love this die. I love blue herons. We happen to live alongside a creek, and we have a blue heron that comes to visit every winter and gets its meals out of our creek. So yeah, I love watching them. So I'm going to take this paper out of the die cut here. Most of it is going to come out easily. If you have a little bit that likes to stick in there, just be gentle while you're taking it out. And that typically happens with some of the leaves and stuff like that. All right, tuck that to the side. Now on these little grass and bulrushes bits, I kind of weave my finger in and out. I don't try to pull it because those little stems and grasses are really quite thin, so I don't want to, thin by that I mean narrow, so I don't want to risk ripping them. There we go. That bit is out. And then I'm going to take a die pick and pick out any remaining bits. We want all of these pieces out because we want to be able to see our watercolor background behind it. One little bit just hanging on there. There we go. All right, that is all done. So now I've got my piece of watercolor paper here. Now it is a little bit bigger than the die cut because I wanted to have that frame of it around there. I thought it looked a little bit more interesting and I thought it looked pretty. If you don't want that, you can cut your piece of watercolor the same size as your die cut. And I'll have the measurements in the supply list. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a pencil and I'm just going to draw a line here where that, basically where the horizon kind of is. So before I did that, I made sure to have my die cut centered in there so that I know when I go to put it together, I'm going to have that line where I want it to be. So I'm going to put my die cut to the side because I don't need it right now. And then I'm watercoloring with some Distress re-inkers. I like them because they're nice and translucent, and I already have the re-inkers for creating my cards anyways, or sorry, for refilling my dies when I want to create, English, for refilling my ink pads when I want to create cards. So this is a great way to use the same supply for two different uses. So this is just a palette tray. I've got my re-inkers. I've got them all filled, the ones that I want, and I'll list all the colors that we're using on the supply list as well, but we're using Abandoned Coral, Tumbled Glass, Broken China, and then some Chipped Sapphire. So I'm going to start with my coral color, and I'm going to go just a little bit above that line, and I'm just going to go back and forth from edge to edge and then work my way down to fade it out. And then I'm going to turn my paper around, dip that corner in again. I've got a wide watercolor brush here, and I like it for things like this because you get a nice fan out of it, and it's easier to blend colors, especially when you're doing something like this along a full width of cardstock. If you find your brush is dry, just squeeze it onto a piece of paper towel, and that'll get some of the water flowing there. All right, that's good for the coral. To clean it off, just rub it on the water or on the paper towel. Now I'm gonna go to Tumbled Glass, which is my next color. And I've got the paint dipped in one corner of the brush, and I'm starting with the clean edge of the brush towards my Abandoned Coral because I don't really want to get muddy colors, and those two colors being somewhat opposite sides of the color wheel would get a little bit muddy. I'm going to do the same thing again for the sky. Actually, no, this part is the water, I think. No, this is the sky. All right, once that's done, I'm just gonna clean my brush out again, although it's not as necessary to clean the brush out for this one just because I'm going into another blue color. So this one is the Broken China. I'm just trying to get some nice gradation to the sky. If by chance you get a little bit of coral in there, coral streaks, that's totally fine. That's how it would be in the actual sky too. So you could, if you wanted, add some streaks in there, but I'm just going to keep it nice and simple. So once again, make sure to go from edge to edge because we're seeing those edges on our card here. If by chance you cut yours down because you didn't want to see that edge, then you don't necessarily have to go to edge, but you only have about 1/8 of an inch there that gets covered. So you want to go pretty close to the edge. Now the last one is my Chip Sapphire, which is the dark blue, and because it's the last color, I'm starting at the edge of my card and working my way in so that I don't have a really harsh line between the darker blue and the lighter blue. There we go. And repeat that on the other side. Once again, if your brush gets a little bit dry, then just squeeze it onto the paper towel, get some water flowing in there. There we go. Make sure your brush is completely clean once you're done. All right, this needs to dry completely before we carry on, and make sure that, because I was going off of my paper there, make sure to clean that up because otherwise some future things might pick up that blue there. So I am going to let that dry completely, and I will see you in the next video and we will start to assemble our card.